Hi, everyone, and welcome to Turning Point. I'm your host, Blaine Birch, co-founder and CEO at Dryrun. And joining me today is Arjun Rai from HelloWoofy. He's founder and CEO at HelloWoofy. Thanks for joining me today, Arjun.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. It's a quick hello from New York City.
Yeah, we're a little bit further away. Last time I was in New York, it was bitterly cold. And my co-founder has a picture of me, which he posted on our Slack channel after, with a little news thing about, angry Canadian is tired of cold, because I'm usually in the winter, I'm actually down south and in Arizona. So
that is
the coldest place that day. And he got quite a kick out of me complaining about it, because I should be better than that, being a Canadian. But anyway, terrific to have you on the show. So I've of course looked a little bit about what you're working on, but I really would like to hear a little bit of how you started. Like, how did you get started? What led into this dive into your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. So, been doing startups since I was a teenager, but specifically with HelloWoofy, we realized that not only as a business owner ourselves and seeing other small businesses, especially during a year like 2020, we needed a lot of help as underdogs. And that's the theme of the company, is supporting underdogs, small business owners at HelloWoofy. And we realized very quickly that, when it comes to digital marketing, there is very little help. You need to go get a certification, pay a few $1,000s. You need to go get a degree, pay a few $100,000. Not a really easy way for a small business owner, a restaurant, a coffee shop owner to understand how to post, what to say, how to do it over and over again with a little bit of efficiency baked in. And so what?
I just want, because you've zoomed forward to where you are today, but I found it interesting. Like you said, you've really been entrepreneurial since you were a teenager. Let's go back to that time. Like, where did you get started? Because I know this is sort of where you are in your journey now, but where did you get started as an entrepreneur? What was your kind of first experience as an entrepreneur?
Well, I guess I've been selling something or the other since I was a very, a young kid. I remember a memory being at an Indian wedding, and there were so many flowers. If you've ever been to an Indian wedding, there are a lot of flowers. And realized that these flowers were getting wasted; they were getting thrown away. And so I pulled a whole bunch of them and turned them into Hawaiian necklaces and started selling them at my grandmother's gate. And I was selling them for a quarter. And mind you, I'm in India, where the currency is not the dollar, and I'm selling things for a quarter, asking for a quarter and whatnot. So that was one of my youngest memories. The other one was moving out of an apartment in Colorado, and I put up a huge sign on the side, and I said, "Hey, everything must go 25 cents, a quarter." And my mom was driving back with her with Chinese food, and she saw the sign, and she was like, "What is going on?" So there were always like little endeavors where I always looked up to the Bill Gates, the Donnie Deutsches of the world. He had a great show that I watched in middle school and high school called The Big Idea with Donnie Deutsch on CNBC. And my mom and I every weekday at 10 p.m. would watch that, and then Shark Tank came along as well. So there were little moments of inspiration on the entrepreneurship ecosystem, how to get into it, what it's like to be in it, and then the benefits or the results of if you do make it all the way through, and all the challenges. And so I started researching even in 7th grade. I remember sitting in the library, not recess. I was sitting in the library researching Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, and just trying to delve into it, what it's like to build a startup, be in the ecosystem, and from the early, the pioneers. Fast forward is kind of where I ended up launching first project in high school, second one in freshman year in college. It was an agency, a digital marketing agency focused on social media marketing. And then we ended up raising a little bit of capital to build out a project management solution that helped agencies and small businesses, do project management. And quickly realized that there are a lot of lessons to be learned in terms of hiring the right people, being on time in terms of like not being too far ahead with your technology, raising capital from the right people. And I just use all of those lessons into what we're doing now.
Well, and it's interesting. Well, for the couple of things that I kind of noticed from that I see with all these entrepreneurs that we talk with was, you talked about like looking at other entrepreneurs and reading about them and everything, but there's something that is ingrained in an entrepreneur that where they look for opportunity. And I think the flower example is a perfect idea. That didn't sound like it came from a book. It was, you recognize an opportunity. And I don't sort of care how many books you read. There's something innate with entrepreneurs where they see something, and it's like, they add one and one and sometimes come up with three, and three is the opportunity, right? Like
Yep.
it's a
Yep.
different way of looking at things. So I find that interesting that sort of leads into, you have that at your core, right?
Yeah, and it happens all the time. Whether I'm on dinner at dinner or walking or meeting a friend or whatnot, there's always like, oh yeah, let's brand it. Let's come up with a slogan. Let's come up with a way to build it out, an MVP, like how we can expand. And that's my dog over there. That's our mascot. But you're true. You're right. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
The other thing I found, like it's interesting because my last business was an agency as well, a creative agency. We did a lot of digital technology things, but making that transition, it's sort of familiar to me as well. If you're starting a service business and you're kind of making money day one, right?
Yeah.
And when you move into a product business, it's a completely different model. And I know personally, when I moved into product business, my assumption was I knew more than I did. I thought my experience from my agency days, even though we built a lot of products, but more for clients, we did some tiptoeing into the product realm ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But getting into what we're doing with Dryrun was a completely different beast, and not all the lessons were transferable. And boy, it was baptism by fire a little bit, just trying to figure all of this out so quickly. And that sounds a little bit like the experience you had, like moving. It's a very different realm, moving from an agency to a product.
Although having said that, I think running a startup like an agency is the best decision, or one of the most interesting ways to go about building a company, a venture-backed company. And the reason is, if you focus on the art, if you focus on the copywriting, if you focus on storyboarding, all the things that you have to do to come up with a creative campaign, you'll end up not with a campaign, but rather a product that includes the customer, includes what they will think, includes what they need, and then a little kernel of the time and resources that goes into it are things that you think they'll need, and those are like those risks you take in terms of like, maybe this will resonate, maybe this will be a moonshot. And so we constantly do that. I mean, one of our moonshots that I think it'll be way more profitable for us next year is the smart speaker integration that we've been working on with Amazon's Alexa team, and or their help, in terms of guidance, and with social audio and whatnot. We started betting on that last year, and we knew that the bulk of the product and service is social media automation, and then we started building blog automation and smart speaker automation. And we knew that the last two, especially the last one, would be a moonshot. And if it works really well, then that story that we've storyboarded will make a lot of sense for us, and we'd be the first to market. And now it makes sense. Social audio, Clubhouse, Twitter Spaces, being able to broadcast through these devices, like the Echo Show that there are 500 million devices around the world. I always encourage entrepreneurs and business owners to think like an agency, like think creative, not just like, don't be so engineer focused, because that doesn't really build a great company.
So how did that transition happen, or what was the difference between your first software company after your agency, the kind of project management? How did you approach that? You mentioned it was venture backed. What were some of, how did you build that company out? What was your sort of process on funding it and growing it?
Yeah, a lot of skipping school, pitching to investors at meetups and conferences, and running after them after they were done speaking on stage and saying, "Hey, this is Arjun." So that was a lot of that. And then we raised a little under 100K initially from angels, and then we talked to a bigger investor, and they ended up coming in for a bigger check. But it all started with just showing up and being at the events that were, where entrepreneurs were speaking, at the investors were showing up. And then eventually you were invited to dinners, you were invited to private events, you were invited to, speaking events, which were not really advertised publicly. And that really led to the initial capital. But as far as the hiring is concerned, the investment firm we started working with, they helped us, kind of find the team originally. I had mocked up everything in PDFs and clickable HTML web pages, and it almost looked like it worked, but it was just, like an early version of what it would be today, an InVision, clickable prototype. And so that's how we got started there. With this company, we actually ended up hiring a dev team off of Upwork for a few $1,000s. We had an MVP. We were able to raise about 50,000 off of it, and then additional $200,000 in additional capital on top of it. But again, I always tell entrepreneurs, like, be super scrappy, get the wireframes, just like an agency, get those mood boards, their storyboards up and running, and then give that to an engineer to be able to build it for a few $100, $1,000, and you're good to go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you transition from your other, like your sort of first endeavor in
Yeah.
software to this one? How did that sort of transpire?
Yeah, it was 2016. We were shutting down the other one just because we had not really found a great fit with the investor or the product. We were way too early. In hindsight, if we had held on to it a little bit longer, it would have been what Monday.com is today, or Mural.co, which used to be called Murally, I believe. And so it's just, everything happens for a reason. And we started working on this end of 2016 with the prototypes, the MVPs and things like that. And then early 2017, we ended up raising our first check from 1517 fund, which was founded by the two people who ran the Thiel Fellowship. And so I believe Peter Thiel is one of their biggest LPs, and it's a scout venture for Peter Thiel. And so they ended up coming in again later that year. Another fund came in as well, and we just we were off to the races. Now, we learned very quickly that we should have done a better job hiring towards the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, and we ended up having to turn the company around with less than about 10,000 in the bank. And so at that point, I put in 120K in credit cards, 50 in cash over the next year, and of course here in New York City in the background. And finally we shipped product towards the end of 2019, and we've been in market, and we've been doing hundreds of thousands in sales now since then.
Okay, terrific. So what was the, like, so you decided, okay, you're I talked with so many entrepreneurs on this show already about the role timing plays, and timing is a lot of times out of your hands. It can be just just bad timing, or it can be just a complete windfall because it just, everything sort of lines up. And so when you moved to HelloWoofy, like what was the big sort of aha moment? Like, what was it that you said, okay, this is our opportunity, this is why we're going to build this is this massive problem we solve?
Yeah. So I looked at the comms. Some of our competitors are publicly traded, so their S1 filings, 10Ks are publicly available, and you can see what they think in terms of their market penetration. So that was one thing. Take a look at what your competitors are feeling, seeing how they're kind of tackling the market. And to be honest, all of our competitors are doing a terrible job at it. Then you look at their products, you talk to customers that are using their products, and they're also frustrated. You take a look at your own lifestyle, and you're like, wow, could I do a better job could I do more if I had a solution that was better than, a competitor of HelloWoofy's? And the answer has always been yes. And so all of those things compounded, to a product that today is not only doing social media automation, blog automation, smart speaker automation. We have a whole bunch of other products coming in the augmented reality space. So we're already light years ahead, but adding a layer of artificial intelligence and the ability to have an agency 24/7 at your fingertips, it makes so much sense for that coffee shop owner that doesn't have a degree in marketing to be able to compete with a Starbucks, right? Or another big chain company. And so I think that was the opportunity. I mean, if you ask Tesla, right, or Elon Musk specifically, why build another automobile company that no automobile company in the last 100 years has really taken off other than Tesla? Why would you build one that is going up against the big boys? He would say that there is something to be said in the battery pack, and the energy and the experience and the ecosystem, and electric has to work. In our case, smart marketing has to work. Otherwise, small businesses are going to get completely left behind. And then we took that motto into other distribution channels. With Elon, he went into space, he went into solar energy, he went besides automobiles. In our case, we do believe that long form content is king, and that needs to be at the core of a small business. And the most important thing in my mind, again, to my earlier point, is smart speaker marketing. The ability to connect with 500 million devices around the world in everyone's living rooms and sell and have that conversation directly with no middlemen involved with your customer. I think it's very powerful. Only the big companies like QVC and the Home Shopping Network here in the United States have been able to do that to the power of television. But now everyone can do it. You could do it. You could put this podcast in your followers' living rooms, and they can hold up their phone and buy from you, or go ahead and download the whatever product and service you're recommending. Simple things like that.
So you're some of the stuff is a little bit beyond my like understanding to some degree. Like it's really interesting what you're doing here, but can you
Mhm.
give me a bit of an idea, like a couple, almost like a case study? Like if you own the coffee shop
Yeah.
and down the road is the Starbucks, and you're absolutely, and just so you know, like I'm very much like I'll always support local, and no matter what town I'm in, I'm always looking for the independent shops, right?
Oh
Like
yeah. Oh yeah.
I'll pop on, and thank goodness for Yelp. And I know there's a lot of things that are, issues for the business owners, but the one thing is, doesn't matter what town I'm in or what city I'm in, what neighborhood I'm in, it's kind of the first place I go to go, like,
Mhm.
who's local and independent that I can go
Yeah.
support, right? And
Yeah.
how would someone like that use your technology and actually like compete with the Starbucks?
Yeah, so I'm actually usually in my examples, I actually put in our algorithms, and our algorithms just got literally issued a patent last week, so we're super excited about that.
Oh,
And
congrats.
we have a couple of other patents in the works as well. And so I'm looking at it. I usually type in a phrase because the patent essentially goes into the ability to autocomplete words, sentences, and with the perfect emojis and hashtags, the whole 9 yards. So I'm looking at it right now. If I type in "I love," for example, dogs and coffee, I can see exactly what emojis are going to do well with these words, what hashtags I may want to use with these words, and what are some other ancillary emojis and topics that are related to what I'm talking about. And I can also see in real time what emojis are being used. And there's a dashboard in front of me that I'm looking at right now. So it's super interesting for that coffee shop owner all of a sudden to be in real time, super local, be authentic with that marketing message versus a company sitting out of middle of nowhere in Seattle saying, hey, you should use this because we know better than what you know about the James and the Lisas and the Sarahs of the world that come into your coffee shop every single day, or
Mhm.
what you think would work locally and things like that. So it's it's kind of like the healthcare system. We've been for a very long time ignoring Eastern medicine, which is not a one size fits all. It's a very holistic approach, very spiritual approach. And now in 2021, now we're seeing ingredients, philosophies from Eastern medicine coming into our culture here in the United States, or in general in tier one countries, because people are realizing that one size does not fit all, not in medicine, not in finance, not in startups. And so in this case, obviously it's marketing, digital marketing. You have to be super authentic and be able to do that at scale. So that small business owner doesn't want to wait 10 days for his or her agency to come up with a whole slew of marketing messages, then get it approved, then get it scheduled next month. They want to be able to do it in real time. And so
Yeah.
that's kind
Yeah.
of where we come from.
So they basically say, okay, I'm going to start, like they're going to start a message,
Yep,
and your technology will go, okay, here's how we're going to polish it up, and we're going to shoot it out to all
exactly.
these different
Yep.
platforms.
Yep.
Okay.
What and the most important part of that is not just the words and the hashtags, which obviously was one of the core elements of the ingredients that goes into a marketing message, is the emojis. There are 3,200 emojis, over 3,200 emojis. Unicode is at the core of kind of the FDA of text-based communication. I don't know about you, but I cannot go through 3,200 emojis every single time. I need to find the perfect one to go with the words and sentence I'm typing about. And so we do it in 5 seconds for you. We even show you which ones are being used and popular in the world. So you can make those trend-based analysis as well. So it's almost like Spirit Airlines level pricing, but for like enterprise or American Airlines, Delta Airline level experience for as far as the technology is concerned.
Mm-hmm. So when like, so you would, your intelligence go through, they'll say, okay, we're going to grab all this. We're going to help you make your message. They look at it and go, yeah, that looks good. And
Yeah.
then it deploys to, like, which does it deploy to, like numerous social networks, or
Yep.
what networks would it tend to go to, or where you have
Yeah.
a good advantage on?
It's a great question. So it does all the major networks: Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. We just integrated Snap today, Snapchat. And we have a whole bunch of blogging platforms integrated as well, like Medium, WordPress, and Shopify is on the way. And then Amazon Alexa is already integrated, where we have anyone can build a skill in it automatically. It's white labeled for the business owner, and apps are coming out very soon as well. So you can have a little bit more immersive experience. We also have augmented reality capabilities coming in very soon. So what that means essentially is that a customer can actually hold up their phone. This is going to sound very, very futuristic, but imagine being able to walk through a gallery of marketing messages. So you can see visually the videos, the photographs, or whatever the media files are. You You can walk through it and say, oh, this is coming out this week. That's great. Let me walk over here. This is going next week. That's great. I don't like that actually. Blaine doesn't like that. Let me push that over and delete it and, swipe something else into place. Or maybe I want to tap on it and send it out immediately instead of waiting till next week. So there are little things that we constantly have built like that, which are very futuristic. But when we show it to our customers, they're like, that makes absolute sense. Why can't anyone else do that? And that has usually been the case for Elon when it comes to Tesla and, this building incredible technology, making it incredibly affordable. And that's the same approach we're taking.
Yeah. I'm trying to imagine a little bit of like how you work with Alexa, or like, do you help them sort of come up with the message based on these other socials and this, or like social platforms?
Yeah.
Or how do you?
So it could be one. It could be one and the same. I mean, typically when I'm doing demos and things like that, I will actually post the same video to Twitter, Facebook, our Facebook group, specifically Content Masters, and Amazon Alexa at the same time. And then all I have to say is, Alexa, play the HelloWoofy skill, and you'll see the briefing, the video clip pop up, and then there may be a call to action right there. And the call to action could be, hey, this is Arjun. If you want to learn more about how to do great marketing with the perfect emojis, click on the link on your screen, because there'll be a link there, or you can use your remote to click on it or tap on it. Or another call to action could be, hold up your phone, scan the screen, and join our masterclass. And then you can actually pay for that masterclass on your phone, and then be enrolled into the masterclass starting this weekend. So it's a very different. It's almost like an infomercial where infomercials should be in 2021, or at this rate might be in 2030. But we're bringing it to television and smart speakers.
Okay. Yeah, this is a fascinating. It's I'm not in that space, so I know just probably just enough to be dangerous.
Sure.
Which is really interesting here.
Yeah, it's very powerful, and there are demos on our website. If you ever want to take a look at it and love feedback, that's the number one thing. Is for seasoned entrepreneurs or new entrepreneurs that are building businesses, just start a Facebook group, for crying out loud. That's the first thing you should be doing, and throw all of your prospective customers, your friends, and your existing customers in there, and then just see them interact. That's the most beautiful thing. Ask them for feedback, raise capital from them if you're doing equity crowdfunding. None of our competitors do that, which is astonishing. But if you go into our Facebook group, you'll see every single day people are saying, I love this. This is the way you should improve. I don't like this. In which case we'll apologize and say, we'll take that feedback to our engineering team, or so sorry that happened to you. That's the core of how you should be building businesses.
How so I suspect like the real advantage that you guys offer right now, or the niche that this works really well for, is local, and really battling the bigger brands. Like that would be a real advantage area that you can offer, I suppose.
Yeah, we like to say we're building the biggest company helping the smallest. And when it comes to the smallest being the underdogs, they have to compete with the unlimited marketing budgets. Budgets that have hundreds of people working behind them, just way too many agencies in some cases working on the same account. And like I said, that example, I love Starbucks, but the little shops need help.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's how this might be a question of sort of, I'm not sure if this makes sense, but how do you actually mitigate the risk? Because you see now a lot of like something, a single post that was ill thought or whatever can actually really highly damage a brand. Is that something that your technology does, and kind of looks at it and says, because that's all something we're always concerned about, is like, here we always want to look like we care about our customers, and we don't want to ever break that trust, right? And even sort of accidentally. So how do you sort of manage that and deal with some of the really tricky parts in social media?
It's a great question. So we do have something called a compliance engine that we built into our product. Right now, it prevents you from effectively shooting yourself in the foot when it comes to posting the exact same thing or similar things over and over again. And that's mainly because Twitter's terms and conditions prohibits you from doing that. And if they catch you doing it, whether it's one account or two accounts, they don't really care. They will take action against you, and they won't hesitate to penalize your accounts or all of your accounts at the same time. So that's the one thing that we built. Now, over time, we want to include all terms and conditions. We want to include all keywords that are not authentic to your brand, or your social media manager should not be using. That's where that technology is going to go down the road, and we have a patent already filed for the compliance engine. So the short answer is we are doing a portion of that today, but the future of that is to do exactly what you're saying. Not only that, but then say, okay, instead of saying this, perhaps you want to say this, which is allowed. Maybe you want to say this, which is more aligned with the sentiment of the overall message. So one of the things that we're looking at right now is what is the sentiment, which means what is the general vibe of what you're saying between the wording, the hashtags, and the emojis. Because you don't want a very negative emoji with a mediocre, like a middle of the way neutral hashtag with an extremely positive message. It won't make any sense. In your mind, when a viewer looks at it, will be confused. Which is why the right matches of those are important. So we're kind of taking everything you're saying with a compliance angle, with a recommendation angle, and helping that business owner compile the perfect message.
And it's interesting when you're talking about like the competition is just basically doing what they do. And we see this in tech all the time. Like this is why startups have this power and this potential, like this ability to upend an entire industry, because there'll be a lot of times the players that are well established, they're making money and they frankly don't care. They're not willing to take a risk, and they're willing to just let the dollars roll in. And that's fortunate, because that's what gives small entrepreneurs and innovation that chance to really upend an entire industry.
Yep. And that has always been true. If you take a look at history, so it's a few people, it's a small group of people that it takes to really completely overhaul an entire industry or government or ideology or whatnot. And so in our case, we consider them the underdogs, and we want to be there with the capabilities to at least tackle one side of running a small business, which is pretty profound, which is digital marketing, getting leads, being able to find the right messages, being seen more. Yeah.
You mentioned, actually, I think before we actually hopped on the call here, that you had a different approach to fundraising in this round. And I found that really intriguing, because it was an area of fundraising I don't know that much about either.
Yeah, and I always recommend it to small businesses or startups that are not able to raise from a traditional means, or they just have too many uphill battles. Just raise from your customers. So the terminology given to this in the United States is called Reg CF or Reg A, and it's in other words known as equity crowdfunding. And it means, in our case, anyone can invest as low as $100, $100 into our company, own shares in or have a promise to own shares in the company, and be really entrenched into the roadmap and how we build a business. So it's gotten to a point where we actually made it a part of our business model to be able to raise capital this way. And it really helps, because not only is the lifetime value right now for our customers between $500 and $600, but if a customer puts in $100, a lot of our customers have put in way more, but let's say $100, and the lifetime value is $500, our LTV effectively just went up 20%. And for the customers that put in $1,000, because we have plenty of those, and one customer put in $30,000, you can imagine the relationship that they have to our business versus all of our competitors all of a sudden. And as we appreciate, as we grow, as we scale up, that relationship only becomes stronger. And then, on top of that, we ask them for feedback. We ask them to join us on networking calls every Friday, tell us how we're doing, on the campaign side, on the product side, on the vision side, how can we help them with their small business? It just becomes a giant family of 10,000 members, 10,000 family members. So I do recommend doing that, and you can run campaigns a few times a year, depending on, and you have to stay below $5 million, I believe, under every 12 to 18 months. In terms of total raise, but that's more than enough for most startups to get going. But I do recommend getting a great attorney who knows how to do securities laws, getting a great CPA, because you do have to be audited every year, and getting a great platform like Republic or Wefunder to really show you the reins of how this works. And it's just an alternative way of raising capital.
Yeah, it's a fascinating area. I know I was on a webinar a couple of weeks ago, and someone from Wefunder was one of the presenters, and it was just an area that suddenly like the way you described it, was really appealing because you get advocates, not just a few dollars. You get advocates for your business, and they're going to be out on the street talking about you much more than if they're just a customer in a lot of ways, right?
Yep.
And that was really a kind of fascinating, and it was also, it gives the opportunity. It reminds me of like the movie reviewers that sometimes just, completely miss something, and then the public loves this show, right?
Yeah.
And it is a little bit like that. Like, you just may not be seen as valuable to the VCs or the, the investment community at large, but the public can say, nah, this is awesome. We want that. And sometimes they're just further ahead or have a very different view. So it's a really interesting approach to fundraising that I've been kind of introduced to, but I haven't experienced myself. So,
well, in our case, we raised, I mean, the numbers kind of speak for themselves. We raised nearly $750,000. I guess at this point, technically we raised $750,000 and over, but it's been all through the public markets, people putting in $100 at a time, $10,000, 1,000, depending on the check size. And then they can track everything online. They can get updates automatically, and the platforms, help us handle that. So it's just whether you're seasoned or not, as an entrepreneur, as a founder, highly recommend doing that.
Yeah, that's definitely something to look into. It's something I'll explore more, because I'd like to learn more about it. It helps I think a lot of times it helps the little guy. And like I mentioned, like I'm always, always supporting local, always supporting the local coffee shop, the local brewery, the local, bakery. And it's just, trying to, no matter what city I'm in, I just really always go out and look for those entrepreneurs that have taken the leap and are fighting the fight. And I see, I see a lot of these places are busy. They're full, even during COVID. And it's nice to see that the support is there for them in a lot of places.
Yeah. Well, you can invest as low as $100 into our Wefunder campaign, wefunder.com/HelloWoofy.
Yeah, check that out, everyone. That's and actually, I guess I should ask you a little bit more. Where can they find you and get in touch with you and learn about what you guys are doing?
Yeah, we're super approachable. Just go to HelloWoofy, which is WOOFY.com, and my email's on there, my phone number's on there. You can grab a quick link to a quick time to see a demo of the product as well. But most importantly, just send me an email, tell me a little bit more about your small business, how, what are you building, what line of work you're in, and what are some of the features that you'd love to see in a marketing platform that would just completely transform your life. Because what we do is then we take those emails, those Zendesk tickets, and we throw it into our roadmap. We have a roadmap in the platform so customers can see what integrations are coming up, what integrations are already available. We're pretty much super transparent. And the way we raise capital is also super transparent. We have to file with the SEC. We get audited for that. And so it's just a good way. It's just a very honest way to scale up a business with your customers, for your customers.
Yeah, this is really, I've never talked, like, a lot of times people come on the show. I've actually, like, I know them, or, I've had a drink with them or whatever. And we hadn't talked before this. So I was really, outside of a quick look at your website, I was really not familiar with this. And so this was just absolutely fascinating. And I see an opportunity, and I love what you guys are doing, because it's giving ammunition to little businesses to really fight and to be able to compete with a lot of the big organizations. And I just love that. I think it's absolutely terrific. So I applaud you guys for what you're doing. I encourage everyone, again, HelloWoofy.com. Thanks so much, Arjun. This was a really a terrific conversation, and really enjoyed learning about what you guys are doing. Absolutely. Virtual hikes from New York City. Yeah, thanks. I can't wait to make it back there. Hopefully maybe spring or fall. It's not so cold out, but we'll grab a dinner. I know a couple of restaurants, a few hundred restaurants here. Yeah, you got a lot to pick from there, and it would be would absolutely love that. All right. And thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us for the show. Again, I'm Blaine Birch, co-founder and CEO over at Dryrun. If you're looking for some help with cash management, financial modeling, basically you're looking for some help as a fractional CFO, come check us out. Check out our platform. We can also introduce you to some of our partners. And if you are a fractional CFO or a CPA offering advisory services, definitely come check us out. We've got the best platform to help you help your clients. Thanks, Arjun.